This happened 2 years ago, but I think I'm finally ready to talk about it. I was 24, working part-time at a bookstore in Sacramento, living in a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate Katie and my cat, Ezra. My life was nothing spectacular. I had student loans, too many mugs, and a car that rattled like an old man coughing in the rain. You get the picture. Then my Aunt Belinda won $64 million in the California state lottery. That's not a typo. 64 million freaking dollars. It was all over the local news. They showed her picture holding the oversized check, smiling that soft, awkward smile I remembered from family cookouts. I hadn't seen her in person in a few years, maybe since my college graduation. She was always kind of reclusive, living alone in a big old Victorian house out in Elk Grove. A former school librarian. No husband. 2 adult kids, my cousins, Ryan and Amanda, who barely called her unless they needed something. When the news broke, you'd think it was the second coming of Christ. Family members I hadn't heard from in years started talking like we were tight. Suddenly, every branch of the family tree was leaning in toward Belinda. But within 2 weeks of the announcement, she disappeared. No social media. No phone calls. No forwarding address. The media buzzed about it for a while. Lottery winner vanishes weeks after jackpot. But when she didn't surface, everyone started speculating. She's in Bali, Uncle Jared insisted, red in the face over Sunday roast. Blew it all on some goddamn yoga retreat and young boy toy. She's gone crazy, Ryan claimed. Wouldn't even answer our texts. Mom's probably locked up in some loony bin. She better not forget who took care of her roof after the tree fell last winter, Amanda muttered, wine glass always too full. People fought. They called lawyers. They begged the state for information, but there was no will, no power of attorney, no financial trace. Her bank accounts were wiped clean, legally. Just gone. Poof. As for me? I didn't fight. I figured if Belinda had finally decided to ghost her entire family and live out her days with a Mai Tai on a beach, well, good for her. She never really seemed happy around us anyway. Especially not after Grandma died. But then, a year later, on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday, I got a letter in the mail. It wasn't handwritten. It was from a law firm in San Francisco, Zeller and Thorne LLP, and it had my full name, no typos, Ms. Lauren Whitmore. Inside was a single line in a serif font. Please contact us regarding the estate of Ms. Belinda Joyce Hamilton. I swear, my hands shook when I read it. I didn't tell anyone at first, not Katie, not even my mom. I drove to the firm that Friday, heart pounding, telling myself it was probably a mistake. Maybe she left me a teacup or something. Maybe she'd gone nuts and left everyone something random like Willy Wonka. But I walked into that sleek, glass-walled office with my Target heels and chipped nail polish, and a man in a gray suit, Mr. Derek Thorne, told me my aunt was dead. She had passed away almost 6 months ago. Ovarian cancer. Quiet. No funeral. No obituary. And she had left everything to me. Not her kids. Not her brother. Not her friend Susan who used to play canasta with her every other Thursday. Me. Lauren Whitmore. Bookstore cashier and champion of microwaved ramen. I sat in that office staring at the document that named me sole heir to a $58 million estate, after taxes and donations. I swear the room tilted sideways. And then, Mr. Thorne slid across a sealed envelope, yellowed like it had been waiting a while. My name on the front, in my aunt's tight, looping handwriting. I opened it in my car. Hands shaking. Heart ready to beat out of my chest. It said, Dear Lauren, I don't know where I'll be when you read this. Hopefully somewhere quiet. Somewhere where no one is shouting or pretending to care about me. You're the only one who ever came to see me without asking for anything. I still remember when you were 10 and came by after school with those awful homemade cookies and just sat next to me in the sunroom. You didn't know I'd just found out about the divorce papers. You didn't know how much I needed a hug. You just gave me one. No one else ever did that. They all wanted something from me. You just saw me. That's why I'm giving you this. Please use it to build the kind of life you want. And don't let them talk you out of it. Love. Aunt B. I read it 5 times before I realized I was crying. I drove home in silence. I didn't turn on music. I didn't call anyone. Because I knew, the moment anyone found out, everything would change. And it did. I didn't tell anyone for 5 days. 5 days of waking up in the same crappy apartment, driving my beat-up Corolla, and standing behind the bookstore counter pretending my world wasn't spinning off its axis. I kept rereading her letter at night like it might suddenly disappear or change. But every time, it said the same thing. She chose me. It didn't feel real until I got the call from Thorne's assistant. The transfer was complete. The money was sitting in a new trust account. $48 million after donations, $10 million in assets. Her house. Her personal effects. Her entire legacy. Mine. I didn't know what to do. So I did what I always do when I don't know what to do. I cleaned. I scrubbed my bathroom until the grout sparkled. I reorganized the fridge. I brushed Ezra until he was practically glowing. And I waited for the crash. It came 2 weeks later, when someone leaked the probate record online. It started small. A few DMs from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey Lauren. So crazy to hear about Aunt B. Wanna catch up sometime? Smiley face." Then a text from my mother, who had always been polite but distant about her weird sister, simply reading, "We need to talk." The next day, it blew up. Ryan and Amanda came knocking. Literally. I was in pajama pants eating leftover chow mein when they showed up at my door. "Hey cuz," Ryan said with that tight-lipped grin he used to wear when cheating at Monopoly. "Can we come in?" Amanda didn't wait for permission. She pushed past me like she owned the place. They didn't waste time. "So, look," Ryan began, hands in his pockets like this was just a casual visit. "We were kinda shocked to hear what happened with Mom's will." "Shocked," Amanda echoed, already eyeing my bookshelf like it owed her money. I didn't say anything. Just crossed my arms and waited. "Obviously there must have been some kind of mistake," he continued. "Mom wouldn't have left us out like that. Not unless she was, well, you know." "Manipulated," Amanda said sharply. "She was sick. Confused. Probably on meds." "You must know that." I almost laughed. Belinda wasn't confused. She was more lucid than either of them ever gave her credit for. She'd chosen me because she knew exactly what they were. But I didn't say that. I stayed quiet. "I mean, we're not asking for everything," Ryan said, voice all syrupy now. "Just, like, our fair share. She was our mom, after all." "Half," Amanda said. "At least." That did it. I laughed, sharp and humorless. "You think you deserve half of what she left me? She didn't even tell us she was sick." Ryan snapped. "You think that's normal?" "She didn't want to see us suffer," Amanda added, but the edge in her tone made it sound more like, she didn't want us around to beg. I set the record straight. "She didn't tell you because she didn't want your pity. Or your performance. She didn't want to be part of your drama anymore." Ryan's nostrils flared. "She was my mother. And she was mine too, in a different way," I said. "She made a choice." "That money should have gone to family," Amanda hissed. "She gave it to family," I said. "To the one person who never asked her for a goddamn thing." They left angry. Slamming the door so hard Ezra jumped off the couch and hid under the bed. Within a week, I had lawyers calling me. Cousins trying to sue. My Uncle Jared ranting about how I was brainwashing his sister before she died. They claimed undue influence. They said I manipulated her. That I must have forged something. But her letter was ironclad. Witnessed. Notarized. Her trust airtight. And Derek Thorne, bless his cold, unshakable professionalism, handled everything with surgical precision. Still, the damage was done. My mother stopped calling. My old roommate Katie moved out after Amanda left a nasty note in our mailbox. A tabloid even ran a headline, "Cousins Cry Foul, Lottery Heiress Accused of Inheriting Fortune from Dying Aunt." The picture they used? From my Facebook. I was at a Halloween party dressed as Velma from Scooby-Doo, holding a margarita and squinting at the camera. Not exactly billionaire material. I thought about running away. About disappearing like Belinda did. Instead, I did the next best thing, I went to her house. The one in Elk Grove. The old Victorian with creaking floors and ivy that snaked up the brick. It had been locked up since she vanished. I had the deed now. The keys too. It smelled like dust and lavender and something I couldn't place, like old paper or dried tears. I walked from room to room, touching things gently, like I was afraid to wake them. Her bedroom was untouched. Neat. Bed made. Her slippers still beside it. In the sunroom, I found it. The place where I'd hugged her when I was 10. The same ratty armchair. The same faded throw blanket. That's where I sat down. That's where I cried. Not because of the money. Not because of the lawsuits. But because it felt like she was still there, sitting beside me, holding my hand. And somewhere between the silence and the soft hum of the old ceiling fan, I swear I heard her voice say, "You earned it." The next morning, I woke up in Aunt Belinda's house to the sound of birds and silence. Real silence, not just the absence of noise, but that rare, heavy quiet that settles in old houses, thick with history. I'd slept on the couch, wrapped in her scratchy knit throw blanket. Ezra was curled on my chest, purring like a tiny, vibrating motor. For a second, I forgot about everything, the lawyers, the vultures, the headlines. Then I opened her bedroom closet. At first it looked normal, sensible blouses, soft cardigans in shades of oatmeal and rose, a pair of shoes she never wore. But behind the row of neatly hung hangers was a locked black box tucked into a canvas tote. It looked out of place. Not dusty, not untouched. Handled recently. I used one of her old knitting needles to pop it open. Inside, a stack of papers, a small photo album, a phone with a dead battery, and a thumb drive labeled in her handwriting, "For L." I sat down cross-legged on the bedroom floor. The first thing I opened was the album. It wasn't full of family pictures. No birthday parties. No Christmas trees. Just photos of her garden, a few books she'd loved, one of her smiling next to a man I didn't recognize, younger than her, in a cozy, wood-paneled bookstore. He looked kind. There was a photo of me too. I was maybe 12, sitting on her porch swing with a juice box and an oversized Harry Potter book. She must have taken it without me noticing. The date in the corner said 2008. Beneath the album was a sealed envelope with my name again, this time just L. I opened it with trembling hands. L. If you're reading this, it means you found the things I couldn't quite throw away. I know the family is probably furious. Let them be. They don't understand that money can't fix what's broken. They never came unless they needed something. They never stayed unless they were watching me count my pills. But you came just to sit with me. So I want to tell you the rest, the parts one couldn't put in the first letter. When I won the lottery, I didn't tell anyone for 3 days. I just sat in my kitchen drinking cold coffee, looking at the check. It didn't feel real. Like I'd been handed someone else's life by mistake. Then the calls started. First Ryan. Then Amanda. Then Jared. Then Susan. Then people I hadn't heard from in 20 years. They wanted houses. Cars. Loans. They talked about sharing the blessing like it was communion wine. But no one asked how I was doing. No one asked if I wanted to celebrate. Except you. You texted me, "You okay with all this craziness?" 4 words. That's all it took. I cried on the bathroom floor that night, not because of the money, but because someone remembered I was still a person. I used the money for 3 things. To disappear. To set up my will and to state the way I wanted. To track down someone I hadn't seen in 40 years. His name was Peter. He was my first love. He owned that used bookstore in Nevada City, the one in the photo. We had 3 perfect months. Then the cancer started. He was gone before Christmas. That's where I was when I vanished, with him. Not in Bali. Not in a villa. Just in a quiet cabin in the woods, holding the hand of the one person who never made me feel small. I left the house exactly as it was for you. I knew you'd understand what mattered. In the drive, you'll find everything else. My passwords. My accounts. And a letter I wrote for the rest of them, if you feel generous. But you don't owe them anything. You owe only yourself. Love always. B. I sat on the floor for a long time after reading it. Then I plugged the thumb drive into my laptop. There were folders labeled in her neat, librarian-style system. One for her finances. One called Legal Defense that made me smile. It was just PDFs of every document protecting her decision to name me heir. She wasn't messing around. But the last folder was the one that hit me hardest. It was titled simply, Lauren. Inside were old photos. Screenshots of texts I'd sent her. A short video of me at age 14, reading aloud from Jane Eyre in her sunroom. I didn't even know she'd recorded it. There was a Word doc called Why I Chose Her. I couldn't bring myself to open it just yet. Instead, I wandered through the house, touching everything with reverence. The kitchen still had her cinnamon jar. The piano in the hallway had a single yellowed music sheet, Moon River, still resting on the stand. Everything in this house had been waiting for me. And I realized then, this wasn't just an inheritance. It was a gift. A fortress. A sanctuary. I stayed there for a month. I didn't answer the media. I didn't call the family. I just lived. Cooked her old recipes. Learned how to play her piano, slowly, with clumsy fingers. Read every book on her shelves. One day, a letter arrived, no return address. It was from Amanda. Lauren. I know we didn't get along. But I'm asking you now, not as a cousin, but as a daughter, please, can I have something to remember her by? I didn't get to say goodbye. Amanda. For a second, I almost threw it away. But I didn't. Instead, I wrote back, come to the house. Come alone. I was ready now. Amanda showed up 2 days later. Black Range Rover. Designer sunglasses. Hair slicked back in a severe ponytail that looked tight enough to pull her thoughts into formation. She stepped out like she was walking onto a set. No smile, no wave. Just that poised, corporate gait like she was used to walking into rooms and expecting everyone to already be behind her. I waited on the front porch, barefoot, wearing one of Belinda's old shawls and holding a mug of tea. Ezra was curled beside me, tail flicking lazily. The perfect picture of inherited serenity. Amanda paused at the steps, arms crossed. Thanks for inviting me. You said you wanted to remember her. I do. Then come inside. I didn't wait. I turned and walked in, letting the door swing behind me. She followed, heels clicking against the hardwood like the tick of a bomb I hadn't decided whether to defuse or let blow. She looked around like she was expecting ghosts. I haven't been here since Dad's funeral, she said, eyeing the piano, the bookshelves, the dusty sunroom beyond the archway. She didn't invite anyone after that. Not even for Thanksgiving. She stopped doing Thanksgiving the year after. She said the turkey was the only one not pretending. Amanda gave a dry laugh, but there was no humor in it. Just old frustration. I didn't come here to fight, Lauren. Good, I said, heading toward the hallway. Then don't. I led her into the guest bedroom where Belinda kept her memory boxes. She'd labeled everything meticulously, 1970s, school, mom, poetry, and finally, Amanda and Ryan. I pulled that one out, set it on the bed, and stepped back. Amanda stared down at it for a long time. She didn't open it immediately. Her fingers hovered over the lid like she was afraid it might bite her. I didn't mean to be cruel, she said suddenly, voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I was just angry. Confused. Hurt. I didn't respond. I mean, she was my mother. And she swallowed. She chose you. I didn't move. Didn't interrupt. Amanda finally opened the box. Inside were pictures. A lock of hair from her first haircut. A ballet slipper. Cards she'd drawn in crayon. Report cards. A homemade Mother's Day coupon, one free hug, redeem anytime. She didn't cry, but her posture shifted, less rigid, like the anger had been pressed into clay and was slowly softening in the heat of memory. She kept all this? Amanda whispered. She did. A few minutes passed in silence. Then Amanda said, you know she wrote me a letter once? Back when I was 19. She said she missed me. Said she wanted us to talk more. I never wrote back. I nodded. She never stopped loving you, I said. Amanda looked up at me, eyes wet now. But she didn't trust me. No, I said softly. She didn't. She looked away. I guess I deserved that. Maybe, I said. But that's between you and her. Not me. Amanda closed the box gently. She didn't ask to take anything. She didn't beg or bargain. Instead, she stood and looked around the room. She was happier without us, wasn't she? I thought of Belinda with Peter in that bookstore, the cabin in the woods, her laughter over the phone when we used to talk about books. She found peace, I said. Amanda lingered a moment longer. Then, to my surprise, she turned and pulled something from her coat pocket. A small, velvet box. This was hers, she said. She gave it to me after Grandma died. Said it was the only thing she ever really valued. I opened it. Inside was a silver locket. Worn and delicate. Engraved with TH. She said she didn't want it buried with her, Amanda said. She wanted someone who understood her to have it. I didn't understand her. She pressed the box into my hand and stepped back. But maybe you did. Then she left. No hug. No apology. No forced reconciliation. But maybe that was enough. Midline horizontal ellipsis. That night, I sat in the sunroom with Ezra in my lap, the locket in my palm, the weight of it strangely grounding. I thought about Belinda, about what she had carried, what she had given up, and what she had left behind. I opened the locket. Inside, instead of a photo, there was a folded slip of paper. I unfolded it carefully. It read, "Love isn't measured in blood, but in presence. You were always present." Midline horizontal ellipsis. The next day, I took a walk down to the old bookstore in Elk Grove. It had been closed for years, replaced by a juice bar with overpriced smoothies and turmeric shots. But in the alley behind it, someone had painted a mural, a field of poppies and wildflowers, and in the middle, a woman reading on a bench. It looked like her. I stood there for a long time. The inheritance hadn't made me rich. Belinda had. I didn't throw a party when the lawsuits were dismissed. No press conference. No social media posts. I didn't even tell Katie, who had started texting again after Amanda's sudden 180. I just made myself a bowl of tomato soup, curled up in Belinda's sunroom with Ezra, and listened to the old floorboards creak as the house breathed around me. The house was mine now. Officially. Permanently. No appeals. No contestation. Just like Belinda wanted. Funny thing was, I wasn't spending the money the way people expected me to. No yachts. No private jets. I bought a new car, modest, silver, quiet. I fixed the plumbing in the house. I hired a gardener to restore Belinda's roses. And I kept working part-time at the bookstore downtown, even though my co-workers looked at me like I was a unicorn every time I restocked the romance shelf. I wasn't trying to be humble. I just didn't want to forget what it meant to live small. That was something Belinda understood. She used to say, "Quiet doesn't mean empty. It means you're listening." I listened. And I started writing. I didn't expect that either. It just sort of happened. At night, after the dishes were done and Ezra had wedged himself under the covers, I'd sit at her desk, still marked by coffee rings and ink blotches, and I'd write letters. Not just to her. To myself. To people I hadn't seen in years. To strangers I imagined. I didn't send them. I just wrote them. And one night, I wrote a letter to Peter. "Dear Peter. I don't know you. But I know the way she smiled when she wrote about you. And I know what it means to be chosen by someone who was always overlooked. You made her happy. Thank you. L." I left the letter in her desk drawer. Right beside the locket. Midline horizontal ellipsis. Months passed. Ryan never came around again. Amanda sent a Christmas card. Just a picture of her kids in matching sweaters. No note. That was fine. One night in March, I got a call from Derek Thorne. "Ms. Whitmore," he said. "I wanted to inform you that your aunt had one final asset that recently matured." I raised an eyebrow. "Another secret vault of gold bars?" "Not exactly." He sent me the documents. A deed to a plot of land in Nevada City. Remote. Forested. Nothing fancy. But in the envelope was a key. And a photo of a cabin. The same cabin Belinda had described in her letter. I went that weekend. It was still there. Small, wooden, mossy. Quiet. Inside was a fireplace, a faded couch, a coffee tin full of dried lavender. And on the kitchen table, taped beneath the lip of the wood, was a note. To L. If you're here, it means you came looking. I thought you might. This place saved me. Maybe it'll help you find whatever it is you're meant to do next. If not, at least it has good light and better air than the city. Be kind to yourself. You're still becoming. Love. B. I sat in that cabin for 3 days. No phone. No signal. Just trees and wind and silence that hummed in your bones. When I came back, I donated $2 million to public libraries across California. I created a scholarship under her name for girls studying literature. I renovated the Elk Grove Library and restored her favorite reading room, complete with a brass plaque. In memory of Belinda Joyce Hamilton. She read everything, even the spaces between the lines. Midline horizontal ellipsis. It's been a year now. I live part-time between the house in Elk Grove and the cabin. I published a book, Letters from the Quiet, under a pen name. Just essays. Pieces of the story. Not the whole truth, but enough. People still ask, why you? Why not her kids? Her brother? Her friends? And I just smile. Because the truth is, I didn't earn it by being blood. I earned it by seeing her. Not as an ATM. Not as a crazy old woman. But as someone who was hurting, and hiding, and hoping someone might just sit beside her and let her be human. Sometimes, that's all anyone wants. I was the only one who hugged her that day when she couldn't stop crying. And in the end, that hug became a legacy. Not just in money. But in memory. Because when everyone else wanted something from her, I gave her the one thing she'd never had. Someone who stayed.